While I waited, I went over some of my notes to make sure I hadn't missed anything important and started taking a closer look at the 3 Polaroids that accompanied the documents that my grandfather sent me.
Yeah, what's going on with those? Halloween is coming up pretty fast, guys, and we're still going through specials. Today, we have a Halloween horror special from one of my favorite animators. Something that I really enjoy about doing reactions to specific channels is the fact that sometimes they have things that go on in multiple parts. They'll have an animation part 1, 2, 3, etc. and it'll tell an ongoing story, or it'll contain some of the same characters or the same places, and you really get invested in these stories because it makes you want to see the rest of it, and anticipation really adds to the flavor of it. Today, Animated Horror Flicks is putting out part 1 of a Halloween horror special called Devil's Island, and we're gonna react to it. Make sure to head on over to Animated Horror Flicks' channel, guys. Click the subscribe button, click the notification bell, and if you like reaction videos, make sure to subscribe to my channel as well. Let's get into the animation. Ooh, spooky. All right. Coffins with crosses on them. Very specific looking coffins, like vampire coffins. Devil's Island, chapter 1. Here we go, baby. All right. Taking a picture. Got it. All right. Weird. The Devil's Inn.
I guess I should have known that there wouldn't be any cell phone service out here, and therefore no GPS, so the taxi driver got kind of lost on the way.
Right.
He was a bit of a jerk about it too, but whatever. At least the long boring drive was finally over.
Right.
I had originally planned to check out the so-called Devil's Island before Halloween, shortly after arriving.
Alright.
But the journey took a lot longer than I thought.
Gotcha.
Fortunately, there was a pub right where the taxi dropped me off, so I could at least enjoy a quick pint and hope they still had a room available for the night.
I gotta say, man, traveling makes me thirsty, if y'all know what I mean. Thirsty for an adult beverage. I ain't gonna lie, every time I've ever flown, I guess it might be the hustle and bustle of boarding and meeting, you know, deadlines and fighting crowds and all of this stuff, you know, baggage claim and getting taxis and all of this stuff, even driving long distances and worried about directions and traffic and things like that. It really makes you just want to sit back and unwind. And man, a good drink after a long day of traveling, it's just, it just works so good, you know?
Short notice and not a moment to spare. That sums up my grandfather pretty well.
Okay.
I still can't believe he convinced me to come out here, but he is too old and frail to go himself, and no one else was willing.
Okay.
He told me that I was the only one he could trust, but isn't that something people say these days just to get you on board?
Kind of, yeah.
Whether he meant it or not, he wasn't wrong. I could always keep a secret, but for now, keeping out of the rain seemed more pressing.
Right. Get inside, man. Go have yourself a little taste. Forget about that old stupid cab driver and his rudeness.
As I sat at one of the tables inside the pub, I felt like an outsider amongst the bustling atmosphere and the strong blended aroma of beer and cigars. Clearly, most of the folks there were locals and were probably wary of receiving a stranger at such a late hour.
Right.
But I shrugged it off and ordered something to drink.
There you go.
Can I have a beer, please? Thank you. While I waited, I went over some of my notes to make sure I hadn't missed anything important and started taking a closer look at the 3 Polaroids that accompanied the documents that my grandfather sent me.
Yeah, what's going on with those?
The old photos progressed from an establishing shot of an old church with a bell tower to a secret crypt and then a large golden cross.
All right.
And then there was the letter from someone claiming to have found the cross and removed it from the crypt.
Uh-oh.
The letter hinted at an attempt to blackmail or taunt my grandfather, but I had a feeling that we were yet to discover the true motive behind it. He probably wouldn't have taken it all that seriously though had it not been for the news about the bell tower.
The ambience
That,
is so
after
good.
decades of silence, could once again be heard echoing beyond the island's coast.
Okay, so the bell tower's been ringing.
Was it all just a hoax? Who was ringing the bell tower? And why now?
Right.
It was in that moment of intense thought that I noticed something strange in one of the photos. A glitch with the camera perhaps, but it looked enough like an apparition to give me an unsettling feeling.
Ah! Whoa!
As my freshly
I
poured
love
guineas arrived at the table, I was suddenly approached by a young lady who seemed intrigued by my presence.
Hey, girl.
To my surprise, she asked me if I was there because of the bell tower,
Oh.
while lightly gesturing to the view of the island outside the window that
Huh.
I was still yet to fully acknowledge.
That's pretty coincidental, don't you think? Like, out of the blue, attractive girl comes up and says, hey, you hear about the bell tower? I don't know, man. That's kind of weird. That figure, oh man, I don't know if it was the sound effect or just the placement or how subtle it was, but man, it gave it a goosebumps so bad.
The bell tower was also visible and stood tall above the silhouette of the island.
Uh-huh.
She mentioned it had been the talk of the town, but no one has dared to visit the island to investigate, adding that the bell tower began sounding off during the harvest moon on October 1st,
Okay.
which also had everyone spooked,
Right.
especially since this Halloween was going to be accompanied by a rare blue moon.
Superstition?
When I asked why, she responded with a series of bizarre local stories that have led many to believe the island to be haunted and hides a deadly curse from which no one can escape.
Dang.
Out of all the stories, though, there was one in particular that struck me as odd. An unsolved mystery dating back to the 1940s.
All right.
It was during a rare hunter's moon on a Halloween night. The island's inhabitants vanished without a trace and their bodies were never found.
Wow.
She expressed genuine concern when I told her that I planned to visit the island the next day and told me to make sure I get back before midnight, since it would mark the anniversary of all those lost souls who perished during that rare hunter's moon on Halloween
Wow.
over 70 years ago. I wasn't the superstitious type, but I could tell it was something she took seriously
Yeah.
and shared the same look that my grandfather had whenever we talked about the island and its many mysteries.
Genuine
We talked
concern.
for a little while longer before heading our separate ways, and I managed to find some accommodation at the pub.
Okay.
Nothing too fancy, but adequate for just one night.
Right.
It was almost midnight and I was getting ready to call it a day when suddenly a note crept from under the door. I quickly peeked down the narrow corridor, but whoever left the note made sure not to be seen.
Thief
For
in the
whatever
night.
reason, I thought it was the pub owner trying to relay a message to me. Perhaps something he forgot to mention regarding the terms of my stay, but I was surprised when I was presented with a stark warning. Only danger awaits you at Devil's Island this Halloween. Stay away. Admittedly, I wasn't really looking forward to going to the island on Halloween, but I was already a day late and my grandfather insisted that I must
Man.
verify the location of the Golden Cross before the end of Halloween.
I want to know.
If only he tracked me down sooner, there would have been more time. There was no avoiding it now.
Right. There's the bell tower. Dude. This sets such an awesome stage, huh? Oh. To be continued. We know it was part 1. So, I gotta say, y'all. This has some Scooby-Doo level of mystery to it, huh? We got a weird church and coffins with gold crosses that some photos came from Grandpa. We got a bunch of legends and lore about some disappearances that happened on Halloween or in October on this island that he's got to visit called Devil's Island. And he's even got the locals telling him to stay away through crazy letters and all sorts of stuff. Now, is somebody hiding something on that island? Is it a legend to keep people away because they're doing something like in Scooby-Doo? Or is there really something sinister at work? So excited to see. I hope you are too. We're definitely going to react to the second one when it comes out, guys. Animated horror flicks. Make sure to subscribe to this guy. Incredibly talented, good storyteller, great animations, as well as a couple videos that I reacted to from him here. Thanks so much for watching. As always, this is Zueljin signing off, and we'll see you next time.